He stood in the hallway of the house I grew up in, his voice low and venomous. "Sign it over. Emily, your mother and I are married now. This place needs a real family, not some grown woman clinging to memories." Victor Lang, my mother's new husband, thought he had me cornered. He had no idea the deed listed only my name, Emily Harper, and that my father had built-in protections no one saw coming. This is a story of betrayal that cut deeper than blood, of a family torn apart by greed, and the quiet power of the law to right the worst wrongs. The biggest fights often happen not with outsiders, but with the people sharing your dinner table. My name is Emily Harper. I'm 35, a senior structural engineer in Cascade Valley, Washington. My Real foundation came from the dusty workshop behind our 1920s craftsman bungalow on Elmwood Lane, where my father Thomas Harper taught me that true value is built slowly, with hands and heart. Dad wasn't just a parent, he was my mentor, the man who restored historic homes across the Pacific Northwest through his company, Harper Heritage Builders. While other kids played video games, I learned to read grain patterns in oak, trace blueprints, and understand that every creaky floorboard in an old house carried stories worth saving. "Never undervalue what you create with care," he'd say, his rough hands steadying mine as we sanded intricate Victorian trim or rebuilt custom cabinetry in craftsman style. Those lessons guided me long after he was gone. Our house, the one we poured 3 years into restoring, was our masterpiece. Weekends and summers vanished into prying up linoleum to reveal original heart pine floors, celebrating with ice-cold lemonade on the rebuilt porch. Every restored window sash, every hand-milled molding held our fingerprints. Dad documented obsessively, before and after photos, receipts for authentic hardware. Every permit filed. "Paperwork protects what matters," he'd tell me, filing folders in his office. The workshop was his sanctuary, pegboard walls of vintage hand tools he'd collected over decades, his grandfather's massive workbench worn smooth by generations. The scent of sawdust and tung oil felt like home. Then came that Tuesday in April. Dad was 59, inspecting a queen and restoration when a heart attack struck in the attic. The client found him too late. The funeral drew half the town, families whose homes Dad had saved from wrecking balls, whose histories he'd honored in timber and stone. They spoke of his integrity, his refusal to cut corners. I stood in the workshop afterward, fingers tracing his unfinished walnut project, his half-empty coffee mug still warm from morning. The house felt hollow without him. Mom drifted through rooms like a shadow. I moved back temporarily to help, but really to wrap myself in our shared history. 2 weeks later, Dad's attorney, Mr. Ellis, called me in. The business sold fairly to employees, but the house, our restored gem, went solely to me. "Your father insisted," Mr. Ellis said, sliding the deed across the desk, "to safeguard your joint work. My name, Emily Grace Harper, alone on the document." Mom accepted it then, saying Dad always saw the house as our bond. 3 months after the funeral, Mom joined a grief group at the community center. She returned brighter, talking of healing. That's where she met Victor. Widowed 2 years prior. He owned a small trucking firm, had 2 adult kids, and seemed steady. Tall, mid-50s, silver-haired, with a firm grip and compliments on Dad's craftsmanship. "Homes like this are rare," he'd say, admiring the built-ins. By fall, Victor was at every dinner. By winter, barely 9 months after Dad's passing, Mom announced their marriage. "Life's too short," she said, still wearing Dad's ring on her other hand. The small courthouse wedding included Victor's son Alex, 29, drifting through jobs, and daughter Brooke, 24, chasing social media fame. They seemed polite enough at first. Christmas brought the shift. My lease ends soon, Victor announced over ham carved with Dad's knife. Silly to pay rent here. Mom quickly added he'd move in. Victor eyed the space. This house could use a man's oversight. Some updates needed. My fork froze. The house Mom and I shared, legally mine, now felt invaded. I agreed he could live there, but insisted modifications required my approval, citing its historic status and my ownership. Victor smiled thinly. We'll figure it out peacefully, but his eyes said otherwise. By January, his oversized recliner dominated the living room, clashing with Stickley-inspired pieces. His TV replaced Dad's tool display. Exercise gear invaded the workshop. Temporary, he claimed. Then Alex and Brooke visited weekends. Alex left drink rings on antique tables with his gaming setup. Brooke turned the sunroom into a selfie studio. Shifting furniture. Mom changed 2 new highlights. Modern replacements for our worn pieces. The heirloom garden simplified to low-maintenance turf. Easier at my age, she'd say. Avoiding my gaze. One Saturday, I returned to contractors at the back. Turning the workshop into a gym, Victor directed. I stopped them cold. That's Dad's space. Nothing changes without my say. Victor stepped close. Voice dropping. This isn't sustainable. Princess. A grown woman hoarding Daddy's house while her mother's husband has no voice? Families don't work that way. I stood firm. This is property law. You need my permission in writing. Which you're not getting.
His cold smile chilled me.
We'll see. That night, arguments drifted from their room, his rumbling frustration, her placating tone. Lines were drawn. I didn't know yet how far Victor would go. The first big breach came mid-March. Working from home in Dad's study. Power tools screamed through walls. I found Victor overseeing workers ripping out the built-in shelving Dad and I had restored over months. Modernizing for an entertainment center, he said casually. Those were original 1920s features we'd matched hardware for perfectly. Hands shaking, I dialed emergency services. Stop now or police arrive. Victor waved them off. But damage was done, lower sections torn, plaster exposed. That evening Mom defended him. He's part of this family now. You're overreacting. He has zero legal say, I countered. This violates historic preservation. She called it just shelves. 2 weeks later, the living room was repainted stark white over our historically accurate colors matched from original chips. Brightens things, Victor shrugged. By April, Brooke had taken the workshop. Dad's tools gone. Alex sold them online for her studio. Confronting her mid-photo shoot, she shrugged. Victor said they were junk. Liam, no. Alex smirked when I stopped him listing more. Victor approved. He gets what he wants. Confrontations mounted. Victor, accidentally, had the garden dug up and resodded while I was at work. Forgot and donated Dad's vintage planes to charity. Likely sold them. Installed unpermitted cameras. This stops now, I told Mom. He's erasing Dad deliberately. She sighed. You're making him unwelcome. The twist. It's not our home anymore. It's mine. Dad left it to protect it. She accused me of weaponizing it against her happiness. Next morning I added locks to the study and my room. Victor's quiet menace outside the door. Dangerous game. Emily. Patience has limits. Your mother and I are exploring options. Time you moved out. Is that a threat? I asked. Reality, he replied. You own it on paper, but we're living here. Possession matters. I called Mr. Ellis that night. Victor wanted me gone. Destroying Dad's work to force it. The war had begun. Kitchen showdown in May. Victor waited with papers. Transfer the deed jointly. We'll buy your share for 60 grand. The house valued over $1 million in today's market. I laughed. Not for sale. His mask slipped. Your father's dead. This shrine is pathetic. He stood, chair scraping historic floors. Cooperate or life here becomes hell. Your mother chooses me. She's already told neighbors you're unstable. Obsessed. Cold dread hit. He'd forged emails from Mom's account painting me as delusional. Hostile. Utility bills rerouted. Paid by him to show I contributed nothing. Code complaints filed. Inspector summoned. At family gatherings, Mom tearfully claimed I blocked basic fixes, house deteriorating under my grief issues. Aunts pitted me. Friends distanced. Toxic vibe. Even my closest friend suggested compromise. Is the house worth your mom? Victor grew bolder. Belongings damaged. Laptop virus. Tires slashed accidentally. Parties during my deadlines. The isolation crushed. Final straw early June. Returning home to Mom. Victor. Locksmith. An officer at my locked study. Worried about you, Mom told police. Victor had rifled Dad's papers. Blueprints missing. That night in hallway. Last chance. Sign, or I evict you. Mom testifies you're unstable. Paper trail shows I'm maintaining it. Hand slammed wall beside my head. Or I'll legally destroy it room by room as repairs. I knew defense wasn't enough. Mr. Ellis uncovered the overlooked clause added 6 months before Dad's death. If any resident caused documented historic damage, I could evict unilaterally, even Mom. Triggered by threat to integrity. We needed proof. Over 2 weeks, my best friend Nora and I turned detectives. Appalled by recordings of Victor's threats and Mom's manipulated emails. She helped document everything. Thousands of Dad's restoration photos matched against current destruction. City records confirmed no permits for changes. Contractors testified Victor ignored legality warnings. One electrician refused work on original knob and tube display Dad preserved as history. Historical assessor Dr. Lena Brooks was outraged. Irreplaceable built-ins gone. Milk paint buried under latex. Victor sold Dad's tools, worth $35,000, to a Portland dealer. Records and photos proved it. Private investigator revealed Victor's pattern. 2 prior widow marriages ending in property grabs. Litigation history. Restraining orders from partners. He targets vulnerable women, the investigator said. Mom fit perfectly. Victor's company was failing. He desperately needed the house equity. Recordings captured threats. Admissions of turning Mom against me. Demolition plans via developer emails, subdividing for townhomes once deed transferred. Case built. $160,000 in damages. Theft. Permit violations. Fraud. Intimidation. Mr. Ellis prepared eviction and restraining order. Financials showed Victor's debts, Mom's savings drained. I secured remaining items in storage. Added legal cameras. Distributed evidence copies. Reached Mom's sister in Oregon, who flipped after seeing proof. We're extracting her. Mom was under control, but we planned public service at Historical Society meeting where Victor boasted preservation while plotting destruction. The meeting room buzzed. Victor spoke on heritage when we entered, Mr. Ellis. Process server.
Me.
Papers served publicly. Room silenced as I projected evidence. Destroyed features. Sold tools.
Developer contracts.
Audio of threats.
Gasps.
Mom's face drained. You sold Thomas's grandfather's tools? The slap she delivered echoed. Victor lunged but restrained. Charges loomed. Theft. Fraud. Historic destruction. Investigators report on past wives exposed. Mom turned on him. You used me to steal my daughter's inheritance. She vowed testimony. Annulment. Victor dragged out screaming threats. But the battle raged, social media smears countered by our evidence dump. Church ousted him. Lawyers fired suits, Mr. Ellis dismantled them. Adult Protective Services probe flipped when Mom provided her proof of Victor's abuse. His assets frozen. Break-in attempt caught on camera. Negotiation via Alex failed. Final attack, smearing Dad's reputation to clients, backfired as community defended. FBI interest in interstate stolen goods shipping via his firm. Day 29. Supervised removal. Victor. Defeated. Loaded boxes under police watch. Blocked from workshop. Nothing there is yours. Final glare. Your father would be ashamed. I replied. He taught me to protect what is heart. You lost underestimating us.
Truck vanished.
Mom emerged lighter. We restored together, tools repurchased, built-ins recreated by Dad's former apprentice. Historic colors revealed. Workshop reclaimed. Open house months later honored Dad. Plaque presented. Mom healed in therapy. Moved to guest cottage. Victor convicted. 8 to 12 years federal prison. Alex faced fraud time. Brooke restitution only. Mom burned his prison letter. We replanted the garden. Honoring Dad's tomatoes. Evenings in the workshop. Scent of oil and wood. I hear his voice. Never diminish heart-made things. The house stands. Deed mine. Legacy alive. Victor thought grief weakened us. He was wrong. What would you fight for to protect?